In this presentation, we will discuss how to interpret your results from your partnership self-assessment. The Community Collaboration for Health framework has been developed from our research and is an interactive tool. The goal of the tool is to think about how these key foundational and energizing aspects of partnerships might interact together to influence collaboration and partnerships. Overall, our findings showed there can be real complexities in working together. A partnership might have really strong foundations with great respect and satisfaction for each other, but it might not predict the partnership actively doing work together. Inversely, there may be limited foundations and brief periods of unsustainable but intense activity. You might use this assessment to describe one partnership overall, but it can be used to explore working on projects or topics, or perhaps a really well-established partnership which has strong foundations and energizing aspects might use this framework when moving into a new topic or area of work, where their partnership is just growing or in need of increasing capacity. The goal of the framework is to consider the ways in which partnerships work well and the ways in which they might grow. But by considering it from these two different perspectives of reflecting on, are our foundations strong and are we energized for action? Using this assessment might help with more targeted development of partnerships. It might also be useful to baseline a new and growing partnership. Either way, the framework is just a snapshot in time, and the movement into these different areas of the model is fluid and ongoing. On this slide, you see an overview of what each quadrant looks like based on strengths and weaknesses of the foundational and energizing characteristics. On the next few slides, we'll break this down and look at each section a little more closely to see how these reflect your own results. The self-assessment exercise will have left you with two scores. Your foundational score helps to assess those aspects of partnership that help to build a strong relationship. The energizing score will reflect the characteristics of partnerships that are associated with activity or action in your partnership. Our research shows that these scores interact with each other. You may have a high score on your foundational characteristics, but a low energizing score, or vice versa. By looking at how these scores interact, the framework should help you reflect on areas of strength in your partnership and areas that might offer opportunity for growth. The cutoff points you see here are established from the research. Please take a moment to map your foundational and energizing scores to the table above to determine your framework placement. Now ask yourself, are you above or below these cutoff points as established from our research? Let's walk our way around the framework and think about what each of the quadrants might mean. In our bottom left quadrant, such partnerships have scored weaker for foundational characteristics and weaker for energizing characteristics. Partnerships with these scores may be working together rarely or not at all. They are characterized by low energizing features, such as a lack of working together on projects, very few shared financial commitments, few to no formal structures, and no shared strategic vision. They're also characterized by low foundational features, where they may have a very limited understanding of each other and a lack of trust or respect. In our research, around 40% of the partnerships we surveyed fell into this quadrant. So if you also fell into this quadrant, you are far from alone. This work is hard and challenging. It is worth keeping in mind, though, that these partnerships are ripe with opportunity for growth, and a multifaceted strategy of building those key foundations alongside moving towards action could yield high returns. The top left quadrant reflects partnerships that are characterized by having low foundational scores but high energizing characteristics. For these partnerships, they have usually come together for a specific reason or purpose, such as grant-funded work, or through responding to a health crisis. These partnerships can mobilize for action and may have some formal structures that allow for fast action, but they lack the foundations in their relationship that could lead to greater sustainability and growth. Around 10% of our participants identified their partnership in this way. For these partnerships, there's a good rationale to focus on building stronger foundations. This could be done by developing a better knowledge of each other, finding ways to increase trust and respect, and finding ways to work towards developing a shared vision for working together. Many of our research participants describe being deliberate about making the most out of these brief bursts of activity to help focus on building better foundations. Let's look at the lower right side of the framework. These partnerships, again, represented around 10% of our participants. These partnerships have really strong foundational characteristics. There is some great trust and respect. Leadership is supportive, and these partners really do value each other. But they have low energizing characteristics, so even though they are big fans for each other, they actually have little or no work that they do together. For these partnerships, there is an excellent foundation, but much untapped potential, and focusing on strategies that could energize would be worthwhile. Such activities could include coming together around data-driven strategic planning, or exploring grant-funded opportunities. If your partnership is in this quadrant, what aspects of your foundational characteristics do you value the most? And how might you use that strong foundation to start moving the partnership along towards more action? You can see the characteristics at the top right quadrant, which show the partnerships that score high on both foundational and energizing characteristics. They have ongoing work together based on a strong foundation of shared vision, trust and respect. They value each other and operationalize that into formal structures, shared data or information. There is shared commitment through financial or staffing arrangements. This quadrant might be seen as the most successful group, but it's worth keeping in mind that much of the research on this topic has focused on success stories, or the partnerships that would fall into this area. However, for our diverse sample, only 40% of partnerships fell into this area. That means there are more partnerships that fall outside this quadrant than in. And over time, partnerships may move in and out of this quadrant, depending on many different circumstances. If your partnership falls into this area, what got you here, and how do you keep doing the work to maintain this position? Would you still be in this position if you were to start on a new area of work together? Now that we've interpreted the results, take a moment to reflect on your self-assessment scores. In the next section, you'll have the opportunity to share what you've learned with others.